and welcome to another episode of Power On Podcast Portable. Hello, everyone. I am Sushi B, and with me, of course, is the wonderful and amazing Taylor.
Woo!
How you doing, Taylor?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm not doing too bad. It's a brand new day, and we've got ourselves another portable, which is always exciting. Interesting one that should lead to maybe some bizarre discussion. I don't know. We'll see how it all goes down. So, but this is a recommendation on your end of a game that I'd never played. So it'll be very, I think, unique, this discussion, to hear how you've come from having experience with it before, and I'm taking it for the first time.
Well, I will say this: as long as you didn't hate the game, I don't think I did a terrible job recommending it.
No, I didn't hate it at all. I mean, I had to go out to buy it, and I was like, well, it's something I've never really had too much interest in, but based on you saying, well, you might want to give this a shot, it was fine. It was a experience that I think, I don't know, without someone telling me to try it, I probably would just have continued to just forget about the game. And anyways, the game we're alluding to here is Parasite Eve for the PlayStation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit older game now. It's, I believe it was 1998 that it came out. And it's a game that's interesting because I didn't really know that it has sort of a connection to a novel, and then there's also a film, I guess, that sort of precede the game, and the game actually plays off of the stories from the other media forms that came out before.
Yeah, I believe, if I remember correctly, the novel, the film is an adaptation of the novel.
I think so, yeah.
And so this game, Parasite Eve, is actually the sequel to the novel, which is kind of weird because it's I don't know, it's just I don't mean it in a weird and a negative connotation. It's just different, I guess. You don't really see that kind of transcending of from a novel to a game and it being the sequel to it. Usually, if they have like a game or something, they might make the novel like kind of filling out details about parts of the game or something like that. It seems, especially for nowadays.
Right. I don't even know if I've ever heard of this sort of setup of having, a novel come out and then somebody saying, well, we should make a video game as the sequel to that novel. That's a very bold type of action to take. It's really neat.
And there is an English adaptation of it, so for those who are interested in reading it, I believe it is just called Parasite Eve. It came out in like 2007 or something. But if those who have played the game, one of the characters explains like the origins of kind of Eve itself, and that is what the events of the novel are. So
right. Yeah, it's really strange. And I mean, I didn't really know that going into the game, so I was like, oh, okay, he's just giving me backstory of what happened, and then to find out after, oh, there's actually a novel, and the full story is there. So, oh, that's really, really strange.
Yeah, it's definitely different. I don't know. When I was younger and played it kind of for the first time, I don't really remember any of my friends ever picking it up and playing it. It just didn't seem to really catch their eye for one reason or another. But I don't know. It's just a very unique gaming experience, I think, especially for the time. Maybe I'm putting a little too much into it, but for me at the time, it was kind of like, oh, this is different and interesting. So,
right. Yeah, I would say even playing it now, it's still a little bit. Maybe you could say now it's maybe not quite as unique. We've definitely explored this type of sci-fi element in other films and games and stuff, so maybe it might not seem so unique, but still, it's the whole setup of the game and such that make it a little bit more special, at least in the Square catalog of titles. And especially for its era, for sure, on the PlayStation. It was definitely something that couldn't really be rivaled, at least for its story, and its attempt to be really complex. And I say attempt because, I don't know, to me, we'll get into it a bit. It's a bit kooky and hokey, but that's kind of par for the course if you kind of pick up the game and look at it. You're like, oh, okay, this looks a bit strange. So
Right. So, yeah, where should we kind of start off here?
we start off with the story.
Start off the story?
Sure, as good as any point.
That's a good point. So yeah. I guess, how do you feel about it being kind of broken up? Because what the game does is it does this kind of day format where you have like day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, and such. And what do you think of that format for the game? Do you think, because to me, it feels like I don't mind it. I like it, but in the same hand, when it does those day things, it kind of makes the pace feel a little off because some days are just like really, really short.
Right.
And you're just kind of like, what the hell are these people doing during this day? There's things going down. Manhattan's on lockdown. Gotta.
Right.
So, I don't know. What do you think of the pacing of it?
Just from a gaming standpoint, I liked it because it showed that this game had focus and that the story was going to push forward instead of just, well, here's the world for you to explore. And I like that too, but I don't think that would have worked very well in this environment. Just being, you're on Manhattan Island, there would have been only so much you could have done anyways. So for them to just say, okay, this place is locked right now, but it will unlock in X number of days because of this event being triggered and such. I think it helped the game, A, stay short, which is good because this game shouldn't have been dragged out more than it was. And then B, it just gave the story the push forward it needs to just be like, okay, and here A, B, C, D, E, F, just going down the line.
And the game at the beginning is a little, it just kind of drops you in. It doesn't. At first, it's just kind of like, oh, you're at an opera and you're watching somebody perform. And then all of a sudden, things go a little haywire, and you slowly try to unravel what the hell is going on. Which, I mean, I mean, the main character's a cop.
Right.
So I mean, it's kind of to be expected. It has that bit of kind of detective motif to it, with trying to figure out who's doing what. It's but it's definitely kind of. I don't know if the game does itself any favors by just dropping you off right there and just saying, okay, go at it.
Right.
So, because it's a new experience, it's new for a lot of people, maybe especially for that time, just kind of like, what the hell is going on? And if you aren't interested in it, if it doesn't really kind of catch your fancy, it's just kind of like, I don't really care at the end.
Right. I mean, but the first day's backdrop is at least interesting. They didn't just say, and here's a cop, and she's investigating a murder. It at least gives you a bit of a lead to be, this is different. But yeah, I get it too, where you're just suddenly walking around and you've got this woman in this cocktail dress, and you're trying to figure out where did she hide that gun? And it's very bizarre at the start. She goes to the opera and there's the singing and everything, and then things just go downhill from there really fast. I mean, I guess we can not necessarily spoil it, but basically one of the characters seems to just go nuts, right? She just seems to be a psycho, and then suddenly people start exploding into flames, right? and you're just like, oh, that's not normal for that to happen,
right? And for whatever reason, well, if you play the game, you'll know the reason, of course. But for whatever reason, Aya, the main character, doesn't catch on fire, so she tries to go stop this person.
Right, because she's special. So.
Yeah, special.
Right. So yeah, it's the setup is interesting, and I think that I personally sort of like that. Yeah, it's just kind of pushing you forward, keep going forward, and I think that it made me want to finish the game then, instead of just, okay, now you could go to this secret dungeon and you could find this stuff, and there's a little bit of that, but it's not to the point of, oh, you're going to grind in this place for 6 hours now and to get the best weapon or something. They don't do that to you, at least. So I think that it helped this type of game. And they were really trying to go a bit with a movie motif with it too, right? And having not known that there was a novel and film before kind of probably puts that into perspective.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a regular RPG.
Yeah. No, it's not quite a regular RPG. It's, I mean, just the setting in itself, really, because it's based in New York, Manhattan, right, and stuff. And you go to Central Park. You go to the Smithsonian. What's
the Museum of Natural History?
Museum of Natural History. Yeah. You go to there. You go to a couple places. Technically, after you beat the game, there is like a new game plus kind of thing, or like an EX game, they call it. And you go through the Chrysler Building, which kind of has access to a lot of just crap to it. Well, I don't want to say crap, but it's like 77 floors of random generating mazes, and of course you can only save like every 10 levels in, and at the top is the true final boss, and you're just like, oh,
right, which I just avoided. I didn't feel like doing all that extra stuff.
But that aside, I kind of liked how, for kind of the middle part of the game, story-wise, is that it gives you these characters, like her partner and just like the different police officers in her department, and it doesn't just quite shut the door on them all at once.
Right.
So you do revisit some of them, and you do see some of them kind of throughout the other days or the later days of the game and stuff. So I do like that, and then you get a point where a Japanese man gets introduced, who's just his how he's introduced is really funny, I think. Like, because I was playing the Japanese version of it, and when it gets to the part where he's talking to the police officers, because what happens is Manhattan goes on lockdown, and they're like trying to get everybody out of the city, and this dude runs into these two police officers like, oh, you gotta go, then he's like, the first thing they're like is like, do you speak English or something?
right
Or like, do you speak Japanese? And it's just like, and it's in English. It's just really weird to see that actually come out. But then I realized afterwards that most of the production came in America. They actually made most of the game in the States, so it's kind of like, oh, I see they're trying to be funny with that sort of thing.
Yeah. He's a pretty weird character. They definitely set him up as the stereotypical geeky otaku type weirdo guy, and so he plays that to a T the whole game, the whole way through, randomly giving these charms and stuff.
Yeah, and these charms really do nothing.
They don't do anything, and they just take up space in your inventory.
Take up precious space.
Precious space. So, yeah, he definitely serves his purpose in the game, but I didn't think he was that likable or anything. He's just kind of there.
Right. I don't know. And then the events leading up to the end, when you kind of get the reveal and everything. I didn't mind that so much. I kind of liked how it led up, and then how it's ended. Like, I'm trying to not. It's hard to kind of tiptoe around without spoiling too much. But how it ends, there's one character who should not be there that's still there. I would say, just because of the act of quote unquote heroism that he does.
Right.
And you're just kind of like, no way, come on. So, yeah, a nice little scene for it, but you're just like, fuck off, no way. So. But overall, I like it. It's got a mood to it that's kind of it's really good for the game, and it keeps that throughout, despite goofy characters like Maeda and Aya's partner Daniel.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know how you feel about the kind of the climax of the...
It's all right. I think it's a little bit, again, it's kind of hokey, a lot of the stuff that's going on. So you're just kind of going, okay, this is just a part of this universe. It's just all they starts out so serious that I guess that's what kind of doesn't bother me, but just is kind of by the end. Oh, we're really in New York, and we're going to experience these real places through the game, and these are real people trying to solve this mystery, and suddenly, people are exploding into blobs of goo and all kinds of really kind of goofy plot twists and stuff of, Maury Povich couldn't have figured out some of these paternity test type results and whatnot. So it just, I think some of it went over my head by near that ending part. I'm just like, okay, just start pushing the button. All right, I get it. It's all funky.
Right.
Let's get to the end already.
Typical Square. Here's the end of the game, and it's all goofy.
And it's just thrown at you suddenly, right? There's some pretty good build up to, okay, and here it is, and the reveal, and blah, and then it's just kind of all downhill after that. But as a whole, though, I don't mind the focus of it and stuff. I think if you have any sort of interest in the scientific realm and science fiction, this could be up your alley.
Yeah, I'd say so. If you do like kind of science fiction with hints of scientific terminology.
Well, that's the other thing is the just dropping of scientific terminology in the game just to sound really intelligent half the time is just, I didn't really buy into that very much.
Yeah, and some I know some other games do that too. It's just kind of like, ouch. Some not to say that I'm like super duper super nerdy with science stuff, but I mean I do like to read up on it and stuff. It's just
right. Or there's just stuff even I remember talking about in biology in high school or something, and I was just kind of scratching my head as I'm playing the game, like, that seems a bit silly.
Right. So, but yeah, what do you think of the kind of the main characters of the game?
Well, as much as you kind of making fun of Daniel there, I like him. I think he's one of the better characters because I kind of felt a lot of the characters are just put on the wayside. It's basically the two main, your heroine and your villain are sort of the focal points, and Daniel's sort of in between of that limbo of he's not really important, but he still kind of is. There's some really good scenes with him and Aya in the car, which I thought were kind of an interesting way to show their conversations, where they have these scenes of them driving in the car to get to their next location once in a while.
Dinge drives way too fucking fast.
Yeah, it's just lights bleeding across the screen. I thought it was an interesting presentation to show. Well, it wasn't really showing New York, but just the idea of here's what happens in the car between places, and instead of just them standing around in the front of the building or something and talking. Chat. Right.
I don't mind Daniel, but there's just some times where he seems to overreact.
He's like a big oaf, basically.
He kind of gives me the Barrett vibe from Final Fantasy VII, just a little bit, not nearly as angry black man, but he
definitely has some anger. Though. He wants to punch people in the face, and he does a lot of foot stomps. There's a lot of really physical type,
very animated.
Yeah, like emotional spectrum where he's shaking his fist when he's angry, and he's
well, like that. But then when it seems that whenever his son's in the picture, because he has a son, he doesn't seem quite as
charged.
Right, he seems a lot more level-headed, which I don't know if that was intended or if that was just kind of.
It could be. It could be to show, he's grounded because of his son.
Right.
I mean, he's very attached to his son, and he becomes very protective anytime that he thinks something is going to harm him, or if he's just completely confused about a situation and he can't find his son, he definitely is a protective father.
Right. And his son needs to pay a bit
more
attention.
Stop being dumb. Yeah. Oh, look, there's fire. And right towards it.
So, let's just say there's a point in the game where his son needs to put on the reasoning goggles.
Is that
and
day 2 there?
Either day 2 or day 3. It's it's just like, come on, Ben. Jesus.
Boys will be boys.
Yeah.
Inquisitive children. But even then, most children would have been like, whoa.
Yeah. Gotta Gotta get away from this. So,
Yeah.
I can't quite remember his name, but the guy who works on your guns, because you can kind of
Oh,
upgrade
yeah.
your weapons and stuff.
I forget the guy's name as well.
Yeah, I can't remember his name, but he takes over, because at first he's kind of pushed off to the side, because
Right.
he's...
Somebody else is actually doing that job.
Right, because yeah, they think that this other guy is too... Hey, what's the word? Too...
He's kind of green, right? He's kind of...
Yeah, greed. Yeah, kind of new to it. He's focused on this, but the older vet's like, oh, it's all about this kind of.
Right.
It's just like, and eventually there's a swap, and so you have this new guy doing it, and it doesn't quite come up if you just play it once, unfortunately, which I kind of don't like. But if you go through the Chrysler building, there are tons of cards you can pick up to trade with him, because he's always asking for cards, and you get like 2 cards maybe. It's like just playing it through the normal way. So, but that character I don't mind so much, because it's kind of like it feels like an outlet in a way, just because not only are you getting the upgrade of the guns, but it's kind of just, it feels a bit more like a state of normalcy, just because he's kind of away from everything. He's just in the police department, mind you. The police department has its own issues, but
the police department has plenty of issues.
But
like, why can't I access those weapons when I really need them?
Yeah,
There's just all these guns sitting around everywhere, and they're like, well, and here's your handgun. I'm like, can I have a shotgun? No.
The one character I don't really like too horribly much is Eve, kind of the villain.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with that. I don't really find her very amusing.
It's more of you want to kill her just to stop her talking or just being in the picture. Like, she's just really, what's the word I want to use? Like, kind of like a holier than thou.
Yeah, she's very melodramatic with the situation all the time, and I don't think for me it really didn't help that they kept playing the aria. They continually played her theme song, and at first time you hear it, like, oh, this is quite impressive to be on the PlayStation.
Right.
But then in kind of Square fashion, and even in general RPG fashion from those days, constantly anytime a villain's on screen, they always had to play the villain's theme. And here it's just done so many times.
Right.
Even if you have a hint of her being around, or they even talk about her sometimes, they play it, and it's just you hear it once, you're like, okay, this would have worked a lot better if they had just showed it at the beginning and maybe for a particular battle or something. But to continually do it over and over and over, it was just getting so repetitive.
Right.
And I think that's also why I didn't like any time she came on. I was just, we have to keep hearing the song. Again, not a bad song or anything, but just to keep getting it put on you over like that, it just, I don't like that when games do that.
Yeah, kind of. Then you have Maeda, who's the Japanese scientist. Is he a scientist?
He's a scientist. He's just a bit. He plays off more like the otaku, like we said, than a scientist, more or less. But he's some sort of biologist or something, or student biologist, maybe. I don't know.
So, yeah, I didn't know if he was quite a scientist or if he was just a learned man, kind of.
I don't know if he's quite just a learned man,
but yeah, we already kind of talked about him. And then there's this one dude, I don't like him very much, and then he doesn't show up very much, and that's Dr. Clamp.
Dr. Clamp.
What an ass.
Yeah. A weirdo.
He's a weirdo, and he's creepy. But when you do have interactions with him, it's just a dick.
I mean, what do you meet him maybe 3 times at the most? 2 I can think of for sure.
Yeah, I know 2 definitively, but I don't know if there's...
Maybe just the 2 times.
Right.
Because he doesn't, you kind of inspect around the area where he's supposed to be, but he's not there for whatever reason. It's kind of weird. He's supposed to play a pretty integral role, but he just seems to be gone most of the time. They talk about it more than he seems to be in it.
I think it might be 3 times now that I think about it. But he's kind of... He's a bit less in the foreground and more kind of in the background and in the shadows.
Right. So just judging from that, if you haven't played the game, it obviously sounds like he does play an important role. But yeah, he's very dislikable. So it's probably a good thing that he is sort of in the shadows.
Right. And that, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's maybe a couple other things you could mention, but probably shouldn't, just in case if somebody does want to play the game. And yeah,
All right. Well, then
maybe just leave it at that.
the end. But what would you? I guess we're going from the characters. And
Well, I was going to suggest, what about going towards the presentation?
right, the setting. And,
Sure, the setting and the actual just overall choices that the producer made to show how the game is playing out. And
I was about to say, you want to start us off then?
I can. This game uses a lot of video. They put a lot of emphasis on video for this game, and a lot of it still looks really good, barring the actual character models. Anything that is showing maybe buildings or weather or any inanimate objects look pretty damn good still. I was surprised. I mean, obviously they show some age, but as a whole, it looks fantastic. But anytime they try to show characters, you can see they're like, oh, they look very sort of that typical anime-ish type characters, very doe-eyed and big and just kind of proportionately wonky.
Right.
Not blocky, but just wonky looking. I mean, the two they bring up a lot is Aya and Eve. They're the two. Maybe they're the only two. Even there might be a few others that are just kind of not in my mind, but those are the two you get lots. And Aya will look completely different from one video to the next, and it's kind of like, oh, that's just strange. She'll have a big head in one, like, or a very giant head, and then the next time her face is completely small, and like, oh, I would have preferred if they kind of left them out, if possible, but maybe at the time you would have been, wow, this looks so good.
Oh yeah, yeah. At the time, you're like, holy crap, so
Right.
amazing.
Right. Look at Aya's curves. Like.
Jesus.
Well, that's what I mean. Like one second she'll have like this hourglass, like tiny waistline, and the next time she'll look like an average woman would, right? Or so it's I don't know if they had different people producing each video or if it was just some sort of limitation because they had other things in the background. So like, well, we have to shape her a certain way because the building is taking up too much memory space, or I don't know. There could have been some sort of limitations on it.
I guess.
I wouldn't presume there should have been, but the only other thing I can think of was somebody else directing each specific video.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if you felt the same way. But I felt like the characters looked really goofy.
Oh, the characters do look goofy.
But then you get like a fighter jet, and you see it, and you're, oh, that's pretty awesome.
Oh yeah. I honestly I didn't quite pay as much attention to the character design when it came to those videos, just because I don't know. Maybe it is because the other bits in the video are actually just really good, but
Right.
yeah, I'm just kind of like, boo. Yeah, character design's a little wonky when it comes to videos.
And unfortunately, you cannot pass through a video. So let's say if you die just before an important video, you're going to be stuck watching it again. And this happens near the end, actually, which is kind of unfortunate. You can't gung-ho charge through. You're stuck watching the video, and it's quite long, like near the end. So it's a little bit annoying that you can't bypass them.
Yeah, but I mean, I kind of chalk that up to the time of when that game came out, because I don't know, a lot of console games didn't have that skip.
Sure.
They're like, we took this much time, you have to watch it.
You have to watch it again, even if you die. Which is a little bit too bad. I like when at least a game... I don't mind when a game has that, if they're like, okay, at least you have to watch it the first time. I'm like, okay, fine. But if you have to watch it again, they sometimes have a skip, or you push start to skip or something. Or if you're playing the game for a second time or whatnot. So. But I don't fault the game too much for it. It's just a little unfortunate that if you get stuck watching it again.
Yeah.
But I think they were good as a whole. They're not really grainy and blocky looking. They're quite good.
Yeah, I generally agree with that. I like the how it's from those videos, just how what is it called with the backgrounds? How they are? Is that
Pre-rendered?
pre-rendered? Thank you. I'd like those kind of backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they're just really cool looking and stuff. And I know some people kind of give it flack because it's a static kind of image. But I don't know, it's just really cool artwork to see, I guess, is how I kind of think of it.
Again, at the time, though, that really helped flesh out the environments instead of just having blocky-looking 3D houses and stuff. It helped a lot, I think.
Yeah, give it a bit more of a vibe of realism with that, and it's
Right.
because you can also how you have a little bit more of a hand in working it. It kind of lends it to being a bit more dark and moody.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, I really like the presentation of it. It's just got a nice kind of vibe to it, where goofy, dark things are going to happen. Dun, dun, dun.
Right. All right. What about going into sort of the battle system and
Why, certainly.
sort of the interface that they use for that and stuff?
Personally, I don't mind the battle system. It's, if I recall, it's got, like, Vagrant Story does a very similar thing.
Yeah.
And, personally, I don't mind it. You're kind of in a it does sort of like something like Chrono Trigger, so you'll get into a battle, and then you'll have to move around in that area.
It's like a real-time sort of. Tales does a lot of the Tales games do this too.
Tales, what it does, it sends you to like an arena to kind of fight, or yeah.
But it's open like that, or Star Ocean. Yeah, they send you to another place, but you're moving around constantly on the screen.
And you'll have your ATB charge up, and you can do different actions. Because Aya's special, she has kind of like a for lack of a better way to put it, just like a magic skill.
Right.
And
the PE meter or something?
Right. And that's you can use, and then when you use it, a certain amount of that meter drops, and then it will charge as well. And you just have to... It usually charges really fast at first, but if you are constantly using it, it
slows down.
Yeah, it seemingly slows down.
Oh no, it does, and it gets frustrating if you're really in trouble and you need health or something. It's actually really tough to not be able to deal with that as it's going the first time super fast, and then later it's just chugging along. And
right. So
I don't know what they were going with that.
Well, I think it's just because.
Or they like her body's energy is not
right. I think I think so. I think it was kind of like
she's fatiguing sort of.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I think I thought it's kind of cool. And so how you mostly fight is with using guns. I mean, you can use a nightstick there, but most of them are kind of meh. So,
the nightstick, or
yeah.
Well, I mean, the nightstick is helpful because you can actually steal items and stuff. So
right. Well, I mean, yeah, but
if you're trying to conserve bullets or something,
I don't know. You really don't need to conserve bullets.
At the start of the game, you might. I was having difficulty at the start running out of bullets, so I definitely had to use the nightstick for a while, and I started using it because I was curious about how can I steal maybe from certain bosses. What do I get, or even some just basic enemies. Like, do I get anything useful from them or not?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just I personally never really dug into the nightstick bits. It's always about the handgun.
Yeah.
Which to me it seems like the most powerful thing.
Right.
The M8000 is king. The gun is so good.
Right. Well, it's actually functional too because it gives you the ability to do something else as well as shoot the gun. Right,
yeah. It gives you a second action option. Mm-hmm. And the thing is with the guns, because you have a handgun, you've got shotguns, you have an assault rifle, you have like a grenade launcher.
Grenade launcher, yeah. Rocket launcher.
Rocket launcher. These, not only do they take bullets, but they also have a range to them. So when you're running around and you want to choose your action when your ATB's filled up, you have to make sure you're within the range of the enemy to hit them, because if not, odds are you'll miss or just do significantly less damage.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this like little green web will come up and everything, and if you're able to hit them and stuff, I don't know. I don't mind it. I like it personally.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. It's a little frustrating sometimes because some things can move really quickly. So even when you're trying to shoot the gun, it's not instantaneous. It's not as soon as you push the button, she shoots the gun. There's a little bit of a delay.
Right.
And so, and if you've got to reload the gun or something, that obviously takes time too. So you try to get as close as possible, which risks taking damage as well.
Yeah.
But I didn't mind it either. I thought the handguns, I only used the handgun, and the only reason I did that was I wasn't too sure about the other weapons, and I just, I think might have used an assault rifle because I had first got one. I was like, oh, let's see what this does, and it was fine, but yeah, the handguns, you can get up to 3 shots per round depending on the gun and stuff, and it's just seems to be the most effective for balancing attack versus your time bar and movement speed and all that stuff.
Right. Which is kind of unfortunate to a degree. I mean, because it's like, what's the point of the other weapons? Because if you're trying to use something else, you're like, oh yeah, the shotgun or something. Oh,
just
yeah.
hoping it's mass damage, I guess.
Right. And you can tweak your weapons, and in doing so, like, you can get like fire off up to, I think, 5? No, maybe more than that. I think 5's the highest I can think of, but you could change the amount of shots you could do per attack. And honestly, while that's nice that you can kind of, opt to shoot other things, I think it actually kind of weakens the gun, which sounds kind of weird, but I think you do less damage if you have like 4 shots compared to just having a gun that just shoots twice.
Right, that has just much more power to each shot. Yeah, and I don't mind that you could shoot other enemies, but it was really hard to judge sometimes how much damage an enemy would take, so I would always just continually focus on one enemy at a time.
Right.
You'd have to be pretty in the know to be, okay, if I shoot this guy, it all depends on the range again too, right? So you got to be a bit lucky to be, okay, if I hit this character, he's going to die, and then if I shoot the other guy, it's going to do some damage, or I'll kill both these guys with just the 2 bullets. It takes some skill to do that, and I just didn't feel like I could be bothered with it. I'll just focus on one at a time and just until they die, and then move on.
Yeah. Slaughter them all! And then
slowly and painfully.
With that, what do you think of the general enemies for the most part?
They're all right. They went for the sort of horror motif with them, and they're okay. I mean, they don't. I'm gonna say they're probably not too memorable. Like down the line, I'm not gonna really remember, other than the fact that they're sort of creepy 6-legged spider type things and stuff.
Right, the one that always sticks out is the very first one because it has the video for it, and it's this mutated rat kind of thing.
Right.
So that's always one that sticks out just because it's like the first thing you see. Shit.
I won't forget the going down the scaffolding side thing, and there's a random spider for no reason there. Like there's absolutely no need for a basically defenseless spider to be there, but for some reason they thought, yes, let's have a spider that can't even harm you. It just to prolong the scene, which takes another 10 seconds, is just like, I don't see why they chose to do that.
I have no idea.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
it's just like, that just seems out of place. It doesn't need to be there at all. You're not in any danger or anything, so it's just kind of strange choice.
Danger, Will Robinson.
No, I don't know. The enemies and stuff are all right. Again, you're going to probably remember massive blobs of goo, probably. That's what you're probably going to take away from it.
Some of the enemies were kind of annoying, specifically those bats kind of creatures.
Yeah, the flying stuff are pretty annoying.
Just because if they hit you, they would blind you and that sort of thing.
Move pretty fast.
Right.
There was in the train track area, or like in the subway line.
Right.
What were those things they move really fast? And they move in 4s, and they kind of keep changing their pattern and stuff. I can't remember they're like some sort of insect type thing, like some sort of cockroach type creature that I hated fighting those things just because they move so quick.
I don't quite remember.
Kind of hard to kill off.
Oh, I'm trying to remember. I can remember the boss for that area. I just don't quite.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't.
shortly after that
Yeah.
centipede type thing. It's kind of similar to that.
Uh,
Or maybe that's what it is. Maybe it is the centipede thing because it breaks apart. Maybe that's what I'm
oh yeah, yeah. The
confusing
boss.
with.
Yeah, the boss breaks apart.
Maybe that's what it is.
Okay, yeah.
I don't recall liking that very much.
I guess the one thing to bring up is that with this game is that you have a limited amount of space to carry stuff, and while you
Right.
can, when you level up, you can increase it. It's it adds a little bit of element of challenge if you're not used to having to do item what's inventory check, I guess.
Mhm.
So keep that in mind.
Right.
Stupid charms, wasted space.
Yeah, well, and you don't find that out till you get to the end of the game. So anyone listening to this, don't use those charms. Just get them right out of your inventory right away.
If you can though, like there's if just don't even
You
talk.
can?
Yeah, there's some of it you can't. You can't get rid of.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, like and you just like just don't talk to Maeda. Just don't talk to him.
Just walk away.
Just walk away. When he says he has something for you and your inventory is full,
You
just be like, "Thanks, bruh, but I'm good." And just walk away.
fair enough.
There's only one thing you need from him, and it'll like say you have to have it. So at that point, okay. But everything else, yeah, no. But
Nice.
yeah. I guess you kind of lead it into the bosses. What did you think of the bosses there?
Some are all right. Again, a bit forgettable for me. There's one I don't even want to just mention just because it's a pretty good one. But yeah, they're just there again. A lot of insect, slimy type creatures.
Oh, I
That's
mean, he had the centipede thing
Right.
from the subway.
Right.
That was probably one of the harder bosses, just because.
Yeah, I would say so.
It's pretty strong and it
And
breaks
pretty
apart.
fast.
And if you aren't doing a good job avoiding things, it's going to be pretty miserable time for you.
Yeah, I mean, she can be pretty sluggish when moving around. So
Right.
yeah, I don't know. I think they're all right. Just again, a bit for me.
I don't know. I like something like I like the Central Park boss, which is kind of like a worms coming out of the ground kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. There's a 4 worms or 5?
Oh, 4 or 5.
Maybe 4. Yeah,
I think it might
maybe 4.
and they're like shooting out little things that split apart, and you're just like So,
Right.
the one dog, what is it? The kind of like Cerberus thing,
Yeah.
which is I like that boss. Pretty easy boss, but I like that boss. I thought it was pretty cool.
There's like that stupid sort of mid-boss giant scorpion thing, but he goes down pretty fast.
Oh yeah. I don't know. Some of them I like them, but yeah, they're not like there's nothing to them to be any sort outside of just being antagonistic. There's nothing to them, so there's no like any story merit to them other than here are some hurdles for you to jump over.
Right.
So,
Right.
woo.
Yeah. How about just to go from there, maybe get close to wrapping it up? What are some kind of issues you felt with the game like that maybe just didn't quite pan out as well as you would have hoped?
Some of the issues, like one of them is definitely if you like it can be hard to differentiate what the hell is what because
Yeah.
you have the background, and it's just kind of like some things are there to be, you can actually kind of interact with it, and if you don't know it can kind of leave you lost for a little bit because sometimes you need to kind of find certain things and you're just going all over the place. It's just like looking at you. Hospital basement. Hated that place. First time I ever went through it, but
The Soho area has kind of got that too, where you're like, can I touch this? Can I move this? Can I? And just, I mean, that area is okay because there's no enemies, so you can just kind of dabble. But
right. But no, yeah, I kind of definitely agree with you. Is that it's just like there's certain things that you can interact with, but you have to do a lot of just kind of like mashing the button and walking around and everything.
yeah, and that's really annoying.
Right. So, I
Off that a little bit before you continue.
okay.
Just in the same vein, I didn't like that the way the door schemes were. I would say about 80 or 90% of the doors just seem to open on their own. but there's the odd time where they were expecting you to push the button for some reason. I thought that was really strange that almost all the doors open except for a handful where you're forced to press the button, or you'll seemingly be right at a door and it won't open. Do you know that I actually got stuck in that police office where, you know, where all the characters are supposed to be doing their paperwork and stuff?
Right.
I couldn't figure out why the door wouldn't open for me. And I'm like, what the hell? Why can I push this door and I can't push this door? I'm like, that is really stupid. That should never happen. I know I'm not the most intelligent person, but I was just like, wow, that's really dumb. And because, as you said, you didn't know what you could interact with. So I thought for a while, oh, maybe there's something I need to pick up in this room first.
Oh, man.
But there's all kinds of like invisible wall type things around certain things. And like maybe if there's something laying on the floor, it'll look like you have more than enough space to walk by it. But there'll be like that invisible reach on it where you have to walk that much further around it.
Right.
I didn't really like that too much.
Yeah, it's a little... something I didn't care for as well is I don't mind the random encounters with enemies, but I kind of wish they would spiced it up a little bit. Or, for example, a case in point, there's a certain room in the kind of the police department where it's kind of this little hallway where you'll kind of run into an enemy.
Mm-hmm.
And I always ran into this fucking enemy every time I went into this hallway, and I was like, "Why?" And it's always and at that point in the game, it's a little frustrating. The enemy's a little hard, and it's just like, leave me alone. Just seriously, I don't mind it, but like that, and there's this there's a warehouse that you can go to, and there's kind of like a little bridge that you have to cross to get to a different room that eventually leads to the boss. And of course, when you're on this bridge, you get caught in between these two spider dickheads that do stupid amount of damage if you're not properly equipped. It's just like, fuck off. You know? Like, I already killed you once. Why do I have to, like, you know, coming back, have to run into you guys again when I'm, like, on super low health? It's a little, I mean, I don't mind random encounters, but when it's the same thing over and over, and it's in the same areas, it's a little aggravating to me.
Yeah, I definitely encountered that too, where sometimes I was purposely trying to get a little more experience. I might have done it where I was walking back and forth on a spot, but there were times where I just want to get from point A to point B, and maybe I had to backtrack for some reason, and then they would just continually throw the same battle at you.
Right. Just like
not the worst, but
yeah, it's just a little annoyance more.
Right. So it's like, what can you do though? There's not really anything you can do, but deal with it.
Yeah. Let's see, something else. I guess a big gripe that I have is not that there's not one, but two instances where if you aren't really sure what the fuck's going on, you will die.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, the second one kind of prompts you a little bit, but you're still in a really shitty spot because you have to navigate through a place you have no idea.
Yeah.
And
I had no idea. And then you're stuck watching a video again after that, too.
Right.
And that was not cool. I was really upset.
Yeah. Hey, I tried to warn you.
Well, that didn't really help because, as you said, you don't really understand the situation. You know partly where to go, but then they fool you by saying, well, you could go that way, and then, oh, we got you. It's like, wow, thanks, guys. That was real ingenious.
And what we're referring to is the ending, is after the final boss, there is a chase sequence.
Right, where they were pleasant enough to confuse you by making a maze and giving you a very poor map that doesn't make any sense when you're trying to move. The way she moves on screen, sometimes you're pushing up and that means to go left, right? Like it's, so that was just painful. And they could have at least done something to clear that up a little, I think.
And the chase scene, it's like, even if you're way ahead, there'll be instances where the blob thingy will
Magically be right behind you.
right behind you, so you're
catches up so fast.
right. You're just like shit. And it's pretty nerve-wracking, especially like right at really early in the chase when you have to go through this like boiler room,
Yeah.
and you have to kind of hit the boiler, kind of make it overheat. The thing pops up, and you have to run around it, and you're just
Right.
kind of like fuck, and just kind of. It's really it's because if you touch it or it touches you, you're dead.
You're
Game's
done
over.
right away.
And you have to do the final boss again, and all that sort of lovely stuff. So
No. Yeah. Poor choice on their part for sure.
yeah, that if anything, that would probably be the worst thing that they could have done there for that.
Wanted to do it, okay, fine, but they should have had a sort of retry button setup or something, because that's painful to have to do it all over again.
Imagine your elation if you beat the final boss. Yeah, and then it's like, oh.
Right, you put the controller down to do your victory dance, and then suddenly you die, and like, oh, well, that's real great.
That totally happened to me, because like you go through the second door, and you have to. It takes time to fucking open that door, because
Right.
it's kind of like
Oh
a wheel
yeah,
door.
it's a little delayed where you gotta turn
Like-
the wheel.
I totally died there the first time I ever played the game. I was like, no, what the fuck?
It's just
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Can't really say too much more about that than that being a big nuisance.
Yeah. Yeah. That's... Oh goodness.
So yeah,
So
that one's
be
up
careful.
there for sure.
Be careful. So.
That's up there. Well, we have not touched upon our 10-point countdown here.
Da-da-da.
So let's do that real quick.
Okay.
So all I've got here for the 10-point countdown is because we've pretty much covered everything here. So all I've got here is going by day. How did you feel about each day?
Ooh.
So day one was resonance and sort of just gives us a plot set up here and there, and we're in the opera and such. So what do you think about that? What would you give that out of 10?
Out of 10, like what? Like
Like a score of 1 to 10, just as a sort of overall piece of the overall game experience.
For one, I would probably say it's about an 8, 7.5, 8.
Okay, cool. I'd probably give it around an 8 as well. I think it's a decent setup, but it's a little confusing.
Right.
But you get a nice plot, you get a cool intro, you get an interesting, main character, and decent setup. So, How about day 2? That was Fusion, and that's mostly in Central Park.
I really like the Central Park area. I love the music for that area, and I like the setting for it. So I'd probably give it like a 9, 9.5.
Oh, nice. I'll probably stick with around a 8.5. Day 3, Selection, and that's mostly revolved around the police station.
I like it. I kind of like how it did because you're going from Central Park to the police station, so you're going through a different thing. It gives it a little bit of a, I guess I don't want to say it like this, but it gives it a little bit of a Resident Evil vibe because you're in a building like the police station,
Right.
and it just kind of makes me think of Resident Evil in that regard, which might sound a little stupid, but particularly 2. But I don't know. I liked it. I'd probably give it like an 8.5.
Ooh, okay. I'll probably give it about 7. I think some of the stuff is just kind of stupid, involving some of the characters. They're just kind of standing around and, whoa, stuff's going down. So
Can't be bothered.
It's not bad. Yeah, can't be bothered. Oh, that's that guy's problem. That's in his department, not mine.
Right.
So, missing children's unit.
Missing children.
So I was like, man, it's a bit wonky, but I do like the story progression up to that point. I think it plays out well. Like go here, and then you're back at the police station.
Right.
Day 4 is Conception. That's mostly played out in the hospital.
Yeah, I don't mind it, but I'm not a big fan of it. It's just kind of like, okay, yeah, I see where they're trying to go for it. And I would probably give it like a 7.
Yeah, it's a bit confusing, and there's some, not really puzzles, it's more just getting lost a lot of the time in there. That kind of frustrated me, but the setting itself is fine, so I'm about a 7 as well.
And
day 5.
Well, I was gonna say before that, day 4 is also one of those instances where if you're not paying attention, you will die.
Yeah, you're gonna bite it. So,
So,
bite it.
fight it.
Day 5. Day 5. Evolution. So we get a slight hint of Chinatown, and then we get the Museum of Natural History.
Well, that, and plus you can also go to the side areas like the warehouse.
Anyway, I was gonna say okay, but
Well, yeah, I'm just saying you can go to the warehouse.
sure. There's another place you can explore. So.
Right.
It's not really story driven or anything though.
So, yeah, I really did not like the very faint glimpse of Chinatown going into the sewer. I hate sewers. I don't like that setting. It's just really dirt. No. For that, just because of it being the sewer, I would put it like a 6, 5.5, 6. I'm pretty. I like kind of like the final boss of the area and stuff, but just.
Yeah, I'll probably stick with around a 7. I was a little disappointed at the lack of the Chinatown at all. Like, it's just, you start there and it's kind of like, and here's Chinatown, and as you said, and now we're going in the sewer. You get very little glimpse of anything there, which kind of just seems like a wasted opportunity. It just seems like they could have gone to the sewer from anywhere, basically.
Right, but
it's just kind of like, oh, well, whatever.
Yeah.
You could have just directly went to the museum, it seems like, as well.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know, about 6, I guess. And finally, Day 6, Liberation, and that's mostly on the ship there.
Because it's really hard to say because there's really not that much to it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have the chase, and then you have your final. Personally, I like the final boss fight. I love the music. I love the get up for it.
Mm-hmm.
I really like it a lot. So, despite the chase being what it is, I'd probably give it like an 8.5.
Oh, and I'm giving it a 2. So
Oh.
I don't mind the boss fight per se, but I really don't like the chase thing. I don't like that you're pretty much forced to watch the rest of the game basically by this point. So yeah, a 2. It's a 2. So there you have another 10 points of anger or pleasure, however you want to put that. We've never really come up with a name for that, so we really should.
10 points, just 10 points.
10 points? Sure, 10 points. 10 points of power.
But I guess just to wrap it up, the last thing to kind of talk about real quick is music. And Yoko Shimomura, she did the music for this. And it's interesting. It's definitely different kind of music. It's got a bit of a... I don't know how to put it, like an inorganic vibe to it almost at points with some of it. It's moody as hell at points.
Yeah.
But,
I kind of felt like it had a horror vibe, but also with a sort of police detective motif in a lot of the sounds. Like, there's just lots of points where if you were doing any sort of investigation, it just sounded like any television TV drama show or something. And then
would definitely agree with you in Central Park. Central Park has that kind of vibe to me. You know, it's
the police precinct has it as well,
right?
As to be expected there, but yeah, it's got a bit of a horror vibe to a lot of it too.
The battle...
very light though, not so much like screeching sounds or abrupt sounds, but just more kind of grovelly and low, and not to a really creepy sound like you might hear in a full horror movie, but definitely
slightly
a hint a hint of mystery in the sounds and stuff. So
the battle themes themselves are kind of
no, they're all right. I'm probably not going to remember them.
Yeah, the only one.
Okay.
Yeah, the only one that really just sticks out is the final boss fight. It just, I don't know. I really like it because it builds. Because like a lot of Square games, the final boss is kind of multi-formed. Yeah, multi-tiered, and it's the song builds. At first, it's really basic, and it's just kind of like this chanting kind of thing, and then it builds up, and it's just like, oh, it's a really, really cool song.
Mhm.
So, phew. So that's Parasite Eve. Check it out.
Yeah.
Do it now.
Interesting game. Definitely interesting game. So
I'm sorry. I do apologize for that last bit, though. I had completely forgot about it, and when I started playing it again, I was like, oh shit, I recommended a game that has a very, very annoying end to it.
yeah, I think I had to do it 4 times, something.
Oh, man.
Because first time I didn't know what was going on. Second time I think I made it most of the way, and then I got trapped in that one room because I didn't know where to go. And then I think I started to figure it out the third time, but I still got caught, and then I finally did it or something. And it's just like, I did them all in a row. So I don't know how I kept my patience to be able to do it, but it was frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry
Maybe
about
3 times. I don't remember. I just remember it being frustrating enough to not want to have to do it again. So, but I think this is a game that I would say if you want to try it, get it off the PlayStation Network if you have not played it. I would not suggest going out to buy the physical copy. I don't know what it goes for, but I just presume it's going to be more than what you pay on the PSN.
Because PSN has it for like $5.
I think it was $5.99. I think I paid.
See, that is a steal, motherfuckers. Get on that.
Yeah, I would presume the disc-based one might be, probably closer to $30 or something. I would just, as a ball game guess, it could be more, it could be less, but.
And don't forget, you have 2 and the 3rd birthday to go through. If you really enjoy it. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that is it for Parasite Eve. Anything else you'd like to add there, Sushi?
No, I would like to only add that I don't know why the second disc starts at the scene that it starts in, so. Another weird director choice, but not that big a deal, really. No, check out Parasite Eve if you have any interest in sort of the old Square soft games or PlayStation era RPGs and have never experienced it. It's coming from someone who has not experienced it until now, so it's worth looking into.
Totally. So yeah, that's it, guys. So with that, thanks for listening and have a good day.